こんにちは。
Hi.
はじめまして、オーボンクリマのイザベルです。よろしくお願いします。
So we are wearing these masks because we first encountered them in Japan, and now they're worldwide during this horrifying pandemic that we're all sharing. But because we're doing this tasting in one of my homes, we're about to take them off and will in 2 seconds. 1, 2. Can you imagine a funnier time in our lives that we'd be doing separated wine tastings of the famous Bon Climat wines that are all over the Japanese market so that we can communicate our thoughts about our wines to our customers, wonderful customers in Japan who appreciate our wines, who like the subtleties, who like the nuance, who like the flavor balance that we get. And we have to do it separated by 7,000 miles, wearing masks, and doing this over an artificial medium in between us. We're going to start and taste 6 wines that represent the range from the very most humble, but still excellent, fairly priced wines that we only make for the Japanese market, our Tsubaki Chardonnay and our Tsubaki Pinot Noir, and we're going to taste all the way up to the top end wines, the best wines that we make, culminating with Knox Alexander, named after my 20-year-old son who's going to college in Tokyo and has been there now for a year and a half. And we're going to complete with the #1 Oubon Climat cult wine in Japan, the wine that's been the most popular for 25 years, the Isabel Pinot Noir. And I'm going to be blessed to be able to share this wine with you with my daughter Isabel sitting right next to me. The first wine we're going to taste is the Tsubaki 2017 Chardonnay. You'll notice the signature of Bon Climat balance and elegance, textural enhancement from the lees contact that we have with the wine because all of our wines are fermented in barrel. In the case of the Tsubaki neutral barrel, no new oak in that, but fermented in barrel and left sur lie so they have a chance to gain nourishment and texture and body as they evolve. The second wine we're going to taste is the Tsubaki 2018 Pinot Noir. Now, many of you know that Professor Tsubaki is a professor of art at Kyoto University who is like the coolest man. He and I were born the same year, 1953, and he is the coolest man you'll ever meet in your life. Always dresses coolest guy in the room. Great shoes, great hats, great jackets, great colors, and just has an irreverent, ebullient, very, 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 very enervated, energetic lifestyle that those of us that don't have it are really jealous of. The Pinot Noir Tsubaki was one of the most difficult wines that we made 5 years ago when we started the program. I was approached by my import agents in Japan to make a wine only for the Japanese market in a style that I felt comfortable with, that I thought that my Japanese customers really appreciate. I know that the subtlety and nuance of great wine appeals much more to Japanese consumers than size, power, darkness, many of the things that are popular in America, but are not food friendly and are not at all accommodating the taste profile of Japanese food. What I love about the 2018 Tsubaki is compared to the earlier wines we made 14, 15 during that period, is the wines now to me are more classical Pinot Noir. They have Pinot Noir fruit. They have really bright red fruit, raspberries and berries. They have earth, they have leaves, and overall they have flowers. And I think, for me anyway, great Pinot Noir is much more like walking through a botanical garden and smelling the air than drinking something that smells like strawberry jam or a sweet beverage that isn't Pinot Noir at all. The next two wines you're going to taste are the Pip wines made under Clendenin family vineyards. Clendenin family is Isabel, myself, and Knox, who, as I said, is studying at Temple University in Tokyo. And we make only wines when it says Clendenin family vineyards. They're only wines that we planted the vineyard, we control through ownership of the land or leasing of the land, and there are estate-grown grapes. And so that's what the Clendenin family vineyards line means. We have very expensive, wonderful Pinot Noirs and Chardonnays. We have wines that are very fairly priced, like the Pip series, that are designed for restaurants to pour by the glass, but also designed for our friends, Japanese consumers, and pals that we drink with in Japan to be able to be consumed every day. The Pip Chardonnay that we're having, which is the 2016, is a wine that's made from grapes that were planted only 6 years ago. We also have our Clendenin family Chardonnay, far more expensive and a little bit more concentrated, only in new oak. And those vines were planted 13 years ago now. The clones we chose to plant were great clones developed by a friend of mine, Professor Raymond Barnard at the University of Dijon in Burgundy. We all use the Pinot Noir clones that Professor Barnard developed, but very few people have used the Chardonnay clones. And I have to tell you, I personally love the Chardonnay clones. The vineyards ripen earlier. They have riper characters at lower sugars, so we can make wine with more acidity, less alcohol, use lots of new oak, and make a very showy Grand Cru style Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. We also can make this type of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay that we have in front of us, especially the 16 Chardonnay from Pip, because by making this with moderate alcohol, with very good acidity, it's just something that you don't need to age. Something that you can drink right away when you buy it, something you consume with sushi, which I really love. Bright, elegant, finesseful California Chardonnay and sushi, but you can have it with fried food. There are so many things that are very not overdone or overcooked, just like in Hawaii, for example, that the Obon Climat Clendenin family style of Chardonnay just goes fabulously with. The Pinot Noir that we're having is also the 2017. So they're wines that have a fractional amount more age on them already than the regular Bon Climat, Santa Barbara County Chardonnays and Pinot Noirs. It is to me the beginning of the arrival of the style that I want to make for Pip Pinot Noir. It's all about berry fruit, earth, lively spice and flowers. There's nothing dirty, heavy, there's nothing funky. And you know, I like funk, but in this case, I like to make this wine without funk. So it'll appeal to more people. It'll be something that goes with pork curry, something that goes with pork cutlets, something that goes with Wagyu beef, things that have lots of oil and fat and have the ability to accommodate Pinot Noir so well. The next two wines we're going to have are far and away the most important and influential wines that we make at Bon Climat. They're wines that were discovered very early when the Isabel Pinot Noir first came out in 1996. We released the 1994 Isabel. I only made 135 six-packs of the wine, but I think at the end of the day, more than half of that wine ended up in Japan because of the dedicated search of my super fanatical, super exigent guys that just go out. If you're in Japan and you like something, you can find it because you work harder, because you look harder, and because you know what you like. And both Knox, which happened 4 years later, And Isabel, which happened, as I said, we made the 94 first and released it in 96, became our version of cult wines in Japan, which makes me so proud and makes, I hope, Isabel at least a little bit happy.
はい、私はとても嬉しいです。
First wine that we're tasting is the Knox Alexander, named after my boy, who has fallen in love with Japanese culture, Japanese language, the Japanese lifestyle, in the same way that Isabel did, probably 5 to 7 years earlier than he did.
今、弟は日本に住んでいます。それからこのワインはちょっと懐かしいと思います。
The 2015 Knox is a product like the 2015 Isabel of a very, very, very small cropped, very intense, very rich vintage. The general characteristic of the Knox wine is determined by the fact that we can only make the wine from vineyards that we planted, and we can only make the wine from 50% clones that come from France recently, the Dijon clones, and 50% clones that came 100 years ago to America from France that we call Sélection Massale, things that grow in California. And we blend those 50-50, so we have something that actually is a lot like the typical Pinot Noirs that were made in the last 50 years in America, but then upgraded with these great Dijon clones that have come in to provide, once again, great fruit, great floral notes, wonderful brightness, good acidity, and change up the weight and the posture that the Pinot Noir has in your mouth. Now we're going to get the territory for her that's a little bit more friendly and comfortable.
やったー。
Isabel was my first child. I was older when I had her with her mother, and I really had to do something in my winemaking to change to make a very special style of wine for Isabel. And we're both very blessed that the Japanese market, all of our customers and friends in Japan, have fallen in love with the wine so much.
はい、ありがとうございます。本当に。
What Isabel Pinot Noir is a selection of the best barrels that we have each year based on the vintage year. And we take the best grapes we harvested, the best barrels that we made, and we blend them around the idea of what a vintage ought to taste like. We have really put a lot of time and effort into making the wine as balanced for consumption early, but still aging. We very recently, at this very table where we're sitting at Rancho Lacuna, we had a tasting of every vintage of Isabel. And it was amazing how every vintage was so young and vibrant and fruit-filled and delicious, and how we all had different ideas about what the best wines were, but all the wines were totally balanced, which, because they're the best barrels of the best things that you make, are pretty easy to do. And 15 was one of the ones that showed very well for me. 16 was in the tasting, and it showed very well, and that's the wine that's coming into the marketplace for you right now. It's a great Isabel, one of the top 5 ever made. And they're things that go with such a diverse amount of food because of their great, graceful, elegant posture. Well, I don't have to tell the Japanese market that they should like it because you guys like it better than anybody in the world. Well, thank you all for joining us in this small little progression between the most obvious, available, and inexpensive wines that we make in the Japanese market, all the way up to Knox and Isabel, the most special wines that Isabel, myself, and my family's company make every year. I also would like to leave you with my sorrow and condolences if anybody has had problems with the COVID-19 coronavirus problem more than our neighbors. We're all part of it. We all suffer in what we're losing in business and lifestyle choices and freedom and joy. but the people that have had family members die, the people that have had direct impact in their lives, it's a really sad thing. And I've talked to a number of people in Japan about what's going on, and I'm not trying to diminish any feeling about it, but I would say out of many people in the world, the Japanese, people from Santa Barbara, where I live, where we have less than 500 cases and we have less than 50 deaths, we've been very lucky, and it's still so painful. My company is struggling dramatically. My personal freedoms and lifestyle are greatly narrowed. And as an old man, I'm thinking I should be partying now, but I'm staying at home, playing solitaire and watching television. It's a great lifestyle. But I want you all to know that the Clendenin family and all of our various members of our team that work at Bon Climat think about Japan and the Japanese market all the time, and just hope and pray that the decisions that our governments are making in controlling this, and our medical communities are making, the hard efforts that the first responders, nurses, hospital workers, transport workers are taking to make sure that we can get through this safely, are not going unrecognized. And we're very, very, very appreciative of what they've done, and we hope that when things get darkest, maybe a really good glass of Isabel can bring a smile back to their faces.
この映画を見てくれたありがとうございます。安全ことをしてください。それから気をつけてね。乾杯。
乾杯。